I'm Dr. John Gartner.
And I'm Dr. Harry Segal.
And welcome to this preview of Shrinking Trump.
On this week's show, we continue to document Trump's cognitive decline, both with physical symptoms as well as mental and verbal symptoms. At the same time, we're watching him have some wins. We're seeing the Supreme Court give an okay to basically allow ICE agents to use racial profiling to arrest and detain people. We see a continued accumulation of authoritarian power. Right, John?
Yeah. And we have a very special guest, someone we've all admired for a long time, Andy Borowitz, the great political satirist. Given that, Harry, you and I are Andy Borowitz wannabes, we wish we were as funny as Andy Borowitz. Well, now today we have the real thing.
Yeah, so he's an amazing guest. So where do you want to start, John?
Well, we always want to update people on what kind of coverage the media is giving Donald Trump's dementia. So again, we have found that there are some publications in the UK and in Ireland that are covering it. And when we have seen it covered in America, it's actually news services like Apple and MSN that pick up these articles from the UK. So what's interesting, though, is that there's a couple of publications that seem to be following Shrinking Trump. And on one hand, I'm proud of that. And you could say we're showing off or congratulating ourselves. On the other hand, I actually find it discouraging that, when they come looking for the people who have been defaming Trump, there's just going to be the two of us. It's like those comedies when they say, can we have a volunteer for the suicide mission? And 98 people, step back, leaving
you and me standing there.
Laurel and Hardy kind of standing there.
It's another fine mess you've got me into.
Exactly. But let's look at what they're saying. So the Irish Star says Donald Trump is facing an, quote, onslaught of dementia, as psychologists warn, quote, all he does is deteriorate, end quote. Clinical psychologists Dr. Harry Segal and Dr. John Gartner have sounded the alarm over Donald Trump's cognitive ability as they claim, quote, all he does is deteriorate. Oh, and look, there's a picture of us and a still from a screenshot from Shrinking Trump. In a recent preview of their Shrinking Trump show, you see, I think I figured it out, Harry. I don't think they're actually watching our whole show. As some of you may know, we always do a little mini show for MeidasTouch. It's about 15 minutes. So I think, Harry, they're actually watching the MeidasTouch version. The psychologists examined what they refer to as the, quote, onslaught of dementia that Trump is facing. On this week's show, we take a closer look at the ways in which Donald Trump's cognitive functioning appears to be slipping even more, Dr. Segal said. Quote, as we have said so often in this program, the onset of dementia doesn't stop. It just continues, he added. Dr. Gartner agreed, claiming that the president is currently the best he's ever going to be.
I wish they were quoting other people. I wish more people were talking about it.
Exactly.
Michael Wolff has a podcast he just began called Inside Trump's Head, which he claims to be doing a psychological expose. I'm not sure that's exactly what he's doing, but I do like it. I wanted to do a shout out to Michael on this one. But the next one. The next one is from the Daily Express in England. Is that right?
That's correct. Donald Trump's mental collapse is being fueled by two key factors, psychologists claim. Again, in the subheadline, clinical psychologist Dr. Harry Segal has been analyzing Donald Trump's behavior and has claimed that the president is suffering from incipient dementia. Now, unfortunately, I think, Harry, they picked a kind of unfortunate screenshot of you. You do look a little goofy there, but it does say warning taken without permission. I don't know if the picture was taken without your permission. The psychologist concluded, we know that he's losing ground terribly. We know that he's losing ground cognitively. There's a kind of race to see, does he lose power before he becomes cognitively disorganized?
Well, I'm still handsome in that picture, as far as I can.
They can't take that away from you.
They can't take that away from me. No, seriously, it was a funny thing though, because last week John was on assignment, and Ahmed Baba sat in for John, and he was terrific. But it looks
he was.
like I think the Express just watched that episode, which is why I'm the only psychologist mentioned. So I think they're starting to watch the show and then just take clips of it and just use it as news.
Yeah.
Just
kind of lazy reporting, actually. The truth is they just watch a 15-minute clip and then they get an article.
Well, there's such a hunger for media, right?
Yeah, no, but it's important. But it's important that they're keeping it in the public consciousness. So you mentioned the fact that. Go ahead.
I'm sorry, John. Go ahead. You go.
Well, you mentioned that they had Ahmed Baba was the co-host, and he did do a very good job. But I just wanted to mention that while I was on assignment, I podcasted with some other co-hosts. So I just wanted you to know that. So what's good for the goose is good for the gander. Hope you realize that.
I'm very threatened, and I want to know who it is that you podcasted with. I want to know who it is. I want to know the details of it and how it started.
Yeah, these poly podcast relationships are a lot more complicated than they look, people.
Listen, just to make one more point about this, it's nice that people some journalists are watching the show and are reporting on what we're saying, but there should be so many more people talking about this.
I know.
It's very discouraging. I mean,
yeah.
You and I just keep at it, and there are some other psychologists, but I don't see them getting any kind of attention, and I don't see anyone on the major news networks talking about it. They just aren't. They stay as far away from it as possible. So anyway, this is our lone project.
Okay. Well, so I wanted to report a little bit on Trump's adventure at the U.S. Open. Apparently, it took people hours to get in because of the security. But here's the reaction that he got from the New York crowd. I'm only going to show one clip. I actually had 4 because I get so much pleasure out of it, but I just picked one.
Dictator! Liar! Dictator!
Just another episode of Everybody Hates Donnie. But more to the point, so I just want you to visualize the scene. So imagine, Harry, that you're at the finals of the U.S. Open, a riveting performance, right? And you're the center of attention. People are booing you. Maybe some are cheering you, right? But you're getting a reaction of the whole crowd, right? So how does Trump react? Oh, he's asleep again, just like he slept through most of the days of his criminal trial. I just want to point out this isn't normal. Okay. Although it is normal for people who have dementia, because involuntarily falling asleep at inappropriate times is typical of dementia. Now, look, I'm an older person. I fall asleep sometimes, when the family's around in the evening or after having a beer or whatever. But you're at the U.S. Open finals and thousands of people are looking at you, just like if you're in a criminal trial and you're in the dock. That's not a place where people fall asleep. And I just want to point this out because now we're focusing more on Trump's physiology, right? We've learned about his swollen ankles and his, the intravenous, the failure of his. They're not saying it's a heart failure, but they're saying it's a failure of his veins, right? To what was the name of the? I'm blocking on the name of the condition. I'm sorry.
I can't remember
IV something.
Because it's not true.
It's not true, because they're obviously hiding the more serious problem. They're lying about the bruises on his hands, which are he's probably getting some kind of IV fluid. Some people are.
Oh, it's just shaking hands, John. It's because he shakes hands a lot.
Yeah,
What's wrong with you?
but
He
not with
shakes
both hands. But he's got the bruises on both hands, not only on the shaking it, right? Because they're liars.
it's so
But let me also show you then again. So this is from the 9/11 memorial. So we're actually taping this on Thursday. So this is actually on 9/11. This is him today at the 9/11 memorial. And let's hear what our friend David Pakman has to say about it.
What on earth is going on with Donald Trump's face? At a 9/11 commemoration event today in Arlington, Virginia, Donald Trump not only fell asleep, that's not really news anymore. Trump is out of energy and falling asleep regularly at public events, but his face melted into a lopsided, droopy mess. Is this the sign of vigor? Is this the energy that Trump told us Joe Biden lacked and that he would bring? And by the way, is this respectful to the victims whose lives were being commemorated here? This is yet another humiliation, and the humiliations just won't stop coming, one after another.
For those of you who are just listening, Harry did a funny imitation of someone with a facial droop, clearly inappropriately making fun of the handicap. But that's the kind of people we are here.
no, it's actually really disturbing.
It is disturbing. You hadn't seen that, and significant, and that's why I'm showing it, not just to make fun of him or to joke. Yes, as David Pakman says, once again, it's inappropriate that he's falling asleep. Although, in that context, to be honest, I could understand it a little bit better because they were naming each name of people. But that droop, some people are speculating, and it is speculation. We don't have hard evidence, but that some people are speculating, and this would be consistent with his circulatory problems, that he's having mini strokes.
Right.
And when you see someone with half their face drooping like that, that's not just someone being tired. That's not a normal face when people are tired or fatigued or falling asleep or asleep. Your face, one half of your face doesn't droop like that. It's suggesting something more serious.
We won't know, of course, because there's no transparency. There's no reporting on his health. But I want to repeat something I said a few weeks ago, that a very astute lawyer that I know who follows politics, he said he really thought that that Trump will either die in office or will be removed because of progressive illness. I mean, between what looks like to us as early signs of dementia, then heart failure. I mean, congestive heart failure is what typically causes swelling, largely swollen ankles. I think he's not doing well. He just isn't.
I'm predicting, Harry, that he'll die in office and not be removed. It'll be my weekend at Donnie's White House.
Yeah,
right?
I knew you were going to say that. So, John, today I'm very excited to introduce our guest, Andy Borowitz, who very kindly invited me to do an interview spot on his podcast on the Andy Borowitz Substack page, where he has a really excellent series of interviews, if I say so myself, about politics and news of the day and culture. I've been reading Andy since I first started seeing his posts on Facebook around 2006 and read some of the things that he published. And now so in 2012, I think it's been a while since he's been the New Yorker. And every once in a while, someone forwards me an article of his thinking that it's real because they're so terrific. I did a little bit of reading about his history. There are things about Andy I didn't know. First of all, he graduated from Harvard, where he was the head of the Harvard Lampoon, and also wrote for the Hasty Pudding, which neither of us went to Harvard, but I had friends who did. And the Hasty Pudding is a kind of an extraordinary event that happens once a year that Andy wrote for. I didn't realize that he'd been a television writer.
Yeah,
he'd worked for Bud Morgan and in Square Pegs, and among many other television credits, he's sort of known for The Fresh Prince of Bel-Air, which I always thought was very, very funny. Now I know why. But in any case, Andy has a really broad perspective on politics, on culture, humor, and and how to survive this pretty terrible time we're having in this country politically, culturally, and I'm afraid economically. But maybe he'll distract us for half an hour. So, Andy, welcome to the show.
Thank you very much, Harry, and nice to meet you, John.
Nice to meet you.
This is reciprocal podcast. We're on each other's podcast, which I mean, that's officially an echo chamber. I think. talking to each other on each other's podcast, but I'm here for it. So let's just do it.
Well, you know, we do a little bit of political satire here on the show, but the truth is we're really Andy Borowitz wannabes.
That's a sad place to be, my friend.
Well, Andy, I'll ask you a question. You're famous for your brilliant political satire, but has reality itself become such a satire of itself that it becomes a challenge for a satirist?
Yeah, now that has always been the case. Interestingly enough, I get that question sometimes now because our life seems so absurd, and the things coming from Washington especially seem so absurd. But you know, it's always been a problem for satire. If you go back to Jonathan Swift in the 18th century, people thought his modest proposal, everybody gets signed in high school, people thought that was real. You know, so it's not really a new problem, not as new as one would think. But I think that it's become exacerbated because of the platforms where news and satire commingle, because you have somebody's Twitter feed or X feed, or they're on Blue Sky or Facebook, and they're seeing real news stories by the AP, for example, and then you're seeing stuff that seems like it's mainly lies, like from Fox or Newsmax or something like that. And then you're seeing satire by people like me or The Onion. And so it becomes very hard to know what's real. And Mark Zuckerberg, in his infinite wisdom, decided to institute community notes as a solution. So it truly is the blind leading the blind. People who are confused about reality, fact check. But I wrote about this earlier in the week. There's a website called Snopes, which is dedicated to fact checking. And I feel in a way bad for them because I put them to a lot of work over the years. But in a way I feel that they owe me one because I've actually kept them employed. Because I went into their archives and found that they have like a whole vertical just of my stories. They've had to fact check something like 40 of my stories, many of which, going back a few years, I didn't really remember having written. And they were so absurd. I was coming to them fresh as if I hadn't written them because I had forgotten about them. And I found it so hard to believe that people were confused enough about the reality of these stories to contact Snopes. But apparently, yes, it is a problem. We had a situation last week, which is why I was writing about Snopes, where I kind of revived a column I wrote a year ago for Labor Day, where I had J.D. Vance talking about how the true meaning of Labor Day has been forgotten because Labor Day is meant to be a celebration of women who go through labor. And this is the only thing a woman can do that gives their life any meaning. And he said, you know, for Labor Day picnics, you should only allow women who have reproduced to go to a Labor Day picnic. And the last line was, no baby, no hot dog. And surely this could not be confusing. But no, it sounded every bit as stupid and as pro-Macron as J.D. Vance tends to be. And so that's really the problem, is that I'm now making fun of people or trying to satirize people who are saying such clownish things. And there's nothing harder than trying to improve upon something that's already clownish. I mean, things like Trump wanting to invade Greenland. And I mean, that sounds like something out of South Park.
Yeah, that sounds like an Andy Borowitz article.
Yeah, I mean, it seems like almost like not like satire. It seems like a burlesque or just
right. That's what I mean. Reality has become burlesque.
Yeah, so that has been a challenge, and people will say to me, "Oh man, with Trump as president, the jokes just write themselves." And actually, I say no, that just the opposite is true. It's really hard to improve upon what he's doing
Okay, that's your preview of Shrinking Trump episode 67. Watch the whole thing. You can find it on the Really American Network, which is a YouTube channel. It streams live every Friday at 3 p.m. And after that, you can watch it anytime on YouTube. You can also listen to it as an audio podcast on Spotify and Apple Music, and as the saying goes, wherever you get your podcasts. We hope to see you then. It's a really good show, so watch the whole thing.
See you then.